Hello? Hello? You ready for some high stakes courtroom drama? Hope you're alright. Oh, that's what we've got in stock today. Stock? Store? In stock? In store? Yep. One of those two. Tuk tuk. Continue. Adventure of the Blossoming Attorney. So, we ended it yesterday. It'll be big brained. The person who took the photograph of, seemingly of Ray stabbing Giselle. In actuality, it's Ray removing the knife. Probably. It is, Sosuke's, like, the reporter that keeps following him. And the court took a recess while they went to fetch him. And it saved the game. So that's where we're starting from today. So let's begin the next part of our court case. 13th of August, 10:41 a.m. Supreme Court of Judicature. Defendant's antechamber. 3. I'm so sorry, Susato. I should have told you about the toxin. Do you think? Maybe so I can slouch my arm a bit more. Yes, you should have. Ray. You have a strong sense of responsibility, I know. That's why you decided you shoulder the burden alone. No, that's not it at all. I was scared of my failure coming to light, that's all. So I hope to retrieve the substance from the Englishwoman before anyone found out. Oop. Before the trial started, do you remember what you said, Susato? That you had no doubt in your mind about my innocence? That you'd stand by me to the last? I remember. And yet I didn't deserve your trust in me. I hid important details from you, Susato. I completely betrayed your faith in me. Hit me, Susato. I deserve it. No, in fact, throw me to the floor. No, that's too good for me as well. Drag me through the city streets. I'm no better, you know. Oh. Even though in my heart I knew that you'd pulled the knife blade from Miss Brett's back. It was just a brief moment when, in my mind, I doubted you. Susato. I'm sorry. After I stood here and promised you that I'd stand by you and always be on your side, I betrayed your faith in me too. And as such, I failed you as a lawyer. Oh, no. I think the situation has taught both of you a valuable lesson. Placing your unbridled faith in another is no easy task. Yes, Father. That fact has certainly struck home. Which is why I can see more clearly now. So, Ray. Yes? Can you find it in your heart to forgive me? Oh, Susato. You know you'll always be a gallant, dashing lawyer in my eyes now. Oh, Ray. We go back already? Okay. Jesus, faster. I was so scared, you know, when it happened. I didn't know what was going on. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. I know it was you who stole the poison. Oh, right. Is that where the knife came from then? The knife came from that little bamboo vagina at the back of the hut? Is that what happened? Because Ray said she just, like, keeled over. I'm assuming that's how she got stabbed, right? She got stabbed through the back of the hut. Well, now, whatever do you mean? And then a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet before collapsing on the floor in front of me with a knife in her back. She had stabbed through the hut. It all happened right before my eyes. And you were the only people in the hut at the time? Yeah, but look at the photo though, Susato. There's a big fucking hole in the back of the hut. That's right, just Miss Brett and myself. There was no one else. So I just don't understand how she could possibly have been stabbed like that. A great mystery indeed. Look, look. Look. I still can't believe it happened. That's why I just couldn't bring myself to speak up. It'll be alright. However it happened, and whatever really went on by the sea that day, I promise you that I'm going to prove everything you said you saw is true. Spoken like a true Mikotaba. Now, I think we should discuss what's coming up in the trial, don't you think? We don't have much time. We must make sure we have our facts in order. Yes, I expect the poison is going to come under close scrutiny in the upcoming proceedings. The police should hopefully have identified it on the blade by now. The trouble is, it's a completely new laboratory synthesized blend of alkaloids. The police won't have any way of testing for it. Oh, I see. Yes. Without this chemical reagent, it's impossible to detect the toxin. Chemical reagent? I sent a colleague of mine off with some earlier to deliver to police headquarters. I think perhaps you should have some as well, though, just in case. I can't find a way to rest my arm. Really fucking awkward. I don't really need my keyboard, so I kind of... Let's see. What do I do, I guess? That works. My keyboard is like kind of like off the table. Chemical reagent, a special indicator solution for a new poison under development by my father's team. It's been created in strict secrecy and exists only in my father's laboratory. What's the matter, Sato? You're suddenly very quiet. It's this newspaper article. Exclusive deadly poison stolen from UA Medical Research Laboratory. I'm wondering how the information got out, given that it was a government secret. It was all the Englishwoman's doing. What? It was when the professor and Sosuke-san were being interviewed at the laboratory. That so-called English lady swaned in and without any compunction and said to Professor Mikotaba, "Oh, Professor, surely your guest would love to hear about your work on that substance there." Stern shut time. You put me in a very awkward position, to be frank. But Sosuke-san's curiosity had been piqued, so I had little choice but to give him a cursory introduction. So then, Sosuke-san knew about the poison? Yes. And it's highly likely that the reporter who was writing up the story about us would have caught a glimpse of the toxin too. This Many Memo-san. By the way, did that reporter join you all when you went to the beach? Oh, no, I don't remember the reporter being there. Indeed, he shouldn't have been. I very much doubt anyone would have wanted them there. Oh? A known criminal had been given permission by the authorities to bathe by the seaside. Sosuke-san pointed out that inviting a reporter might be problematic, so the man was sent back to the office. Yet he obviously didn't go back. He secretly followed the party to the beach, took this very candid photograph, and then presumably he posted it anonymously to the police. Ah! Yes, that must be what happened. Counsel! We've just heard that the new witness is now ready to testify. The trial is about to resume. Please proceed into the courtroom at once. It's time to steel ourselves once again, then. Defense Attorney Ryotaro Naruhodo. Yes! Ray has put her faith in me now and told me everything. So I can't let her down. I have to prove that what she's telling the court is true. I have to prove what really happened that day. Let's fucking go. We back into it, boys. 13th of August, 11:30 AM. Supreme Court of Judicature, Courtroom 1. I hereby call this court to order as we reconvene to continue the trial of Remember Me. Prosecutor Aoshi, have you summoned the new witness? Before I address that question, Your Excellency, I have some very important news to share. Oh? What news? And why does he look so happy about it? During the recess with the collaboration of Professor Miyotaba's laboratory at Yume University, the police re-examined the knife that was used to end Miss Giselle Brett's life. There was no trace of the poison, was there? Excellent. I admire your rapid handling of the matter. Oh, too kind, Your Excellency, too kind. I was merely carrying out your instructions, of course. I had the reagent delivered to police headquarters by rickshaw, so it will be there in good time. But judging by the man's swagger, I fear we might need to brace ourselves for the inevitable. And, Counsel, what were the results? This dagger, which was so cruelly used to end the life of the victim, has no trace of poison anywhere along its blade. Because it's in the pen, right? The knife's like a red herring, I think. But what? Are you sure about that? I would stake the reputation of the police on it. Armed with the reagent, the test is extremely simple. They couldn't have made a mistake. The murder weapon has been entered into the court record. A small knife from the scene of the crime that was found in the victim's back. No trace of poison was found on the blade. In short, the accused's feeble excuse earlier has been utterly destroyed. Now, the prosecution is ready to call the new witness. Ah, the newspaper reporter who managed to capture a photograph of the crucial moment. Good. Very well, officer. Bring in the witness. No trace of poison on the knife. But if that's really the case, how could the toxin have entered the victim's body? Her wine, chat, it's all back to the wine. I'm telling you, I wanted that fucking wine glass from the start time. There he is, hey. He's got the pen ink on his arm too. Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. Writing many memo of the Shoyu News. I'm what people call a journo. What's a journo, father? Do you know? Simply a contraction of journalist. I'm there where the news breaks, putting pen to paper to catch those scoops so they're in print the next morning. They don't call me the hero, the herald for nothing. The nice guy of news. Music. Oh, so it was you who took his photograph, was it? Oh, there's the symbol from the pen on his arm. Well, what have we here? I'm sorry? Oh, brace yourselves, people. Many memo senses a scoop in the offing. Female student up to foul play. Defendant by curiously handsome young lawyer in Supreme Court. The readers will lap this up. We'll set it above the fold at 72 points in a 5-leg format for the morning edition. Oh, RM, right? Yeah. It's like R. It's like something. Yeah, it's like R. Many memo or something like that. Hey, Evan's got that. He's got the fucking armband. He's got the fucking cracked camera. Huh? Right then. Let's start with your name. Oh, it's Ryuto Naruhodo. Next, what made you want to become a lawyer? I wanted to reform our country's legal system, I suppose. Ryuto has suddenly become very ambitious, I see. I just borrowed Kazuma-sama's dream for a while. By the way, my name is Taketsuchi Aochi. That's Taketsuchi Aochi. The so-called dark horse of the Supreme Court. My objections strike fear into every defense lawyer's heart. No, the readers won't buy that. What? Bullshit. Witness. Yes? What this court demands to know is whether or not you were the responsible for taking of this photograph. It was delivered anonymously to the Imperial Police Bureau only yesterday. Yeah, I wouldn't be a journal if I didn't click quick when I'm presented with a scoop like that now, would I? Sometimes stories call out to me, sometimes I have to chase them down, but either way you gotta be fast. Fast leg to run with and a fast hand to write with. It's no good if you don't note it down, as I always say. That's what I call my many memoism. Many memoism? Ah, yes. I remember your face. We met that day when you were interviewing myself and Suzuki-san. Yes, right. That was me, Many Memo again. But you were supposed to be going back to the Shoyu news offices after our meeting. But the scoop is, I didn't. Because that English woman's word had piqued my journalistic interest. Miss Brett's words? A criminal left to do as she pleases just because she happens to be a British citizen? Uh-oh. Get the tablets, Leo. Get the tablets. It's horse dung. This country's judiciary is rotten to the core. The Supreme Court's rulings aren't worth the paper they're written on. The police are just imperial pawns. Stay your tongue, young man. There are complex political issues at play. Well, anyway, I quickly jotted down those words she said in my many memo pad. Are you ready? I'll read it out. It's all here. Right. Here goes. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. A serious criminal going on some junket. The people need to know about this. That's why I decided to sneak after them. To get the woman's story so I could hammer her in the press. Do you mean to say that you did indeed witness it firsthand? The grim scene portrayed in this photograph? Oh yes, I saw it with my very own journo eyes. From start to finish, through the viewfinder of my trusty camera. This guy. Thank you, Menimabo-san. You will now give a formal testimony before the court. You will state exactly what it is that you witnessed of the events surrounding Miss Brett's death. Okay, here's his testimony. Witness testimony. The camera never lies. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there were plenty of gaps I could see inside through. The English woman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the English woman on the floor. She stabbed her in the back. My smouldering journo spirit burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped out my camera ready to click. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens through for the perfect shot. So I was going to snap this thing there again. Reed screens, you say? Right. You can see them clearly enough in that great shot I snapped. The hut walls were just screens made of coarsely woven reeds. That's the same, like, presumably the same place he stabbed her through then, if we're accusing him, right? The hole in the back. Guess it allows the breeze to pass through and bring some relief from the summer heat. And it was a breeze for me to poke my camera through and see the whole thing hotting up. Isn't that meant to where you're, like, changing? Man's just meant to being a peeping Tom. Why was he there, huh? Right? Like, he's just spying on her. Ignoring for the time being the appalling invasion of privacy involved. Ah, my point exactly. Did you witness everything that happened from the moment the defendant entered the hut? Oh yes, I saw it. I saw the whole thing from start to finish. Did you say that you took the photograph through a gap in one of the screens? Luckily for me, they were pretty shoddily woven. I pulled the reeds apart and thrust the lens of my camera through the gap. Would I get away with it? Or would I be seen? It was the gamble of a lifetime. A tenacity of purpose that's considered admirable in a journalist, I suppose. Run a risk one day, run a scoop the next. That's many memoism in a nutshell. At last, it would appear we have a genuine witness to this wicked crime. The evidence and testimony are extremely compelling. I believe we may be close to your verdict. No. Wonderful news, Your Excellency. Wonderful. Nevertheless, it cannot be denied that this testimony begs one very large question. What question? Exclusive news. A startling photograph, all the makings of an exceptional story for the reporter. Why then was the story never published? Oh, that's right. It seems clear to me that there are circumstances at play here that are yet to be understood. Huh, more pathetic excuses. Very well then, counsel. Proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, Your Excellency. There's more to this reporter than meets the eye. He's keeping something about this case very close to his chest. Yeah, the camera. Right, so he said he heard them arguing, so I want to see what he heard them arguing about. What were they arguing about? So you actually saw Memami-san entering the hut? Yep. And she was raging like my journo spirit. And the argument you mentioned, what was that about exactly? You stole it. I didn't steal it. That kind of thing. Talking about the poison, I suppose. The student girl walked right up to the English woman and really started laying into her. I mean, if she laid into her any more, there would have been eggs. The man should have been an author. His descriptive talents are wasted on journalism. But the student's rantings fell on deaf ears, like a Japanese person listening to English for the first time. You really have to work on his similes first, though, to be honest. Anyway, the point is, that woman in the dock was mightily angry. And her temper finally got the better of her, it seems. Dear me. What are we doing? Which was the climactic moment that I caught on film. Let's see if we can examine the knife. Oh, she didn't any more of the big eggs. I think that's funny. Let's say in the front. The label appears to be written in a foreign language I don't know. It's German, so you know your knowledge of English is going to be of little help here, I'm afraid. Couldn't you just have written medicine on it in Japanese? Then we'd all be able to read it. What did I say, Noodle? Xenomorph shit. German is the international language of medicine, my dear. But yes, I can certainly see the merit in labeling the bottle in Japanese. But I'm not sure medicine would be entirely appropriate. Need to know. Okay. Nothing on the bottom. Ah, yes. This must be the victim's blood. Oh dear, blood is never a pretty sight, is it? Now having to fight the urge to run it under a hot tap and get it clean. You've always been fastidious about cleanliness, haven't you? I think this is something else, Father. Anything else on the knife? No. The poison had to have been in the pen, and it has to have been drank, right? If it wasn't on the knife, then seemingly there was no other wounds, so it had to have been ingested in her wine. Let me click that again. Okay, I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens through for the perfect shot, right? Hear more about this. But the two women inside didn't notice? Ah, obviously not. If they had, where would I be right now? In jail, that's where. Which you think would make you reflect on what you were doing? No, a journo's job is to collect little snippets of life as unobtrusively as possible. Leave nothing but footprints. Take nothing but photos. Yes, that's spot on. Did he just make that up? The point is, the witness risked life and limb to obtain this photograph. And this photograph reveals the whole truth. There is nothing more to be said. He claims to have spied the whole affair from start to finish. If true, his testimony is devastating. But it does seem as though he's holding something back, doesn't it? If that's how you feel, I suggest that you trust your instincts and press him on everything he said. As you know, I'd seen done many times before in your role as judicial assistant. Yes, I have. I've seen witnesses like this pressed often. I know exactly what to do. I tend to fucking nail him on everything, huh? Right, so he says there's plenty of gaps in the screen. So he's fucking looking around it. What made you want to see what was happening inside the beach hut in the first place? Call it journo instinct. Can you think of a better reason? Oh, I don't know. Perhaps because as well as being a proven criminal, the person inside was a young woman? Oh. I see where you're going with this. Brace yourselves, people. He's painting the journal as a voyeur. Or voyeur. Hardly slander, sir. You had a camera and you were taking pictures about the woman's knowledge. Nope. You've got it all wrong, little student boy. Sorry? To my mind, all that was inside that hut was a scoop. Nothing more, nothing less. Scoops know no gender, man or woman. It's all news. That's not even many memoism, it's basic journalism. Only the courtroom was indiscriminate. Right, so that's all buttoned up. Can we move on? Tell the court, then, witness, what sight befell your eyes when you looked inside the hut? A sight that vindicated my journal instinct, that's what. When I pulled back the reeds, I could see it all as clear as day. So she was on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing. Is there a stool in the photo? There is, okay. The stool's right there as well. How could he have seen this stool from that angle? Maybe just seeing her sitting down?
Hold it.
So he actually saw him. Oh wait, chip. We already got some. There's the egg comment again. Okay. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. So he's saying he actually saw the specific moment. Do you swear before this court that you actually saw the precise moment when the stabbing took place? Ha! The precise moment. I didn't see just that. I saw the whole hellish scene play out, from start to finish. I have here a simple plan of the beach hut. Oh, okay. Perhaps you could use it to explain to the court exactly what you witnessed. Right you are. It's all here in my mini memo pad. When I first peered into the hut, I'm sure that the Englishwoman was on this stool at the back of the hut here. Yes, the accused's own testimony confirmed that. She just sat at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly, is what I have noted down. It's my turn to testify now. Try not to interrupt. Then the next moment, as I was watching, the evil student girl entered the hut. After a while, the pair of them ended up in the middle of the hut, arguing furiously. The Englishwoman went for the student, but the girl dodged out of the way. And in a flash, plunged the knife into her adversary's back as the two passed each other. What about the wine, though? What you describe as a grim crime indeed. Never sugarcoat the truth. That's what many memoism says. The beach hut plan. A panel at the layout of the small beach hut where the victim was found. By the way, many memo-san, whilst you were watching that terrible scene unfold before your eyes through the gap in the screen, did it not occur to you to try to prevent the tragedy rather than capture it on film? Journalists have to be observers. We can't get involved. That's our
Raison d'etre.
Yes. I see. Means their existence, or meaning for existence, apparently. I mean, I can get the fucking meaning from it, I don't know how to pronounce it. You're either going to get that or you're going to get Raison d'etre, so you didn't converse with Miss Brett at all? Obviously not. An observer always remains on the outside looking in. This man fucking thinks he's Uatu the Watcher, huh? I am the Watcher. Not something to be proud of, is it? Your Excellency, if I may. Yes, Professor. I think the witness's last expertly phrased statement should perhaps be added to his formal testimony. Ah, here we go. Father, what are you... This means we can fucking push this particular line. I will grant the defense's request. Many Memo-san, you will supplement your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement. Well, nihilism is the foundation of many Memoism, but I'll gladly prove that my words aren't meaningless. Right, what's he going to say here that we can get him on? I never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with the Englishwoman. I was there only as an observer. I never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with the Englishwoman. I was there only as an observer. Can we push him on this as well? Really? You didn't set foot inside the hut at all? I'm quite sure about that. I think you may have the wrong impression of me. We're talking about a murder scene here. My nerves were stretched to breaking point already. Oh, I see. You were scared? Maybe I did have the wrong impression of you, yes. It was all I could do to stifle a scream and hold my hand steady enough to snap the shot. You really should have summoned help before thinking of your camera. Many Memoism and humanism don't always agree. And most of the time in those instances, many Memoism comes out on top. As a sculptor of stories, sometimes I have to be cruel for my art. Yes, that's spot on. Surely he's making all this up. He claims to have spied the whole affair from start to finish. Oh. Okay, there we go. Where's the line? Is it the very end now, is it? Okay, so it's now the last line. Quick as a flash, I whipped up my camera ready to click. The court is fully aware of your desire to capture the incident on film, I'm sure. But why then did you choose to post a photograph anonymously to the police? I'm afraid I don't understand a word that's coming out of your mouth. I'm asking why, as a journalist, you decided not to make a story out of the incident. Think of me as a sculptor who makes art out of the sordid, private details of other people's lives. But I never discuss my own personal life on principle. I mean, that's basic Memoism. It's not something to boast about. No doubt your burning desire to see the truth exposed and justice done was what motivated you. That's it, that's brilliant. My burning desire to see something or other exposed. There has to be a good reason why I didn't think to write an article about what he saw, though. By your own admission, you were outside the hut. How then did you manage to take the photograph? Ah yes, that. I'm glad you asked. And he talks about, like... Okay. Talk about him poking the camera through the reeds. Oh, we already got this one. Shit! I think we press him on everything now. So now we need to start presenting evidence. Let's go back over his statement and make sure there's nothing we haven't pressed. Yeah, his fucking hands are covered in ink and stuff. Yeah, I think we've gotten everything now. Is there something that proves he went inside the hut, maybe? Can we present the pen maybe now as his? Right, well, it's clearly his pen with the fucking reporter's emblem on it. Right, if the music stops, we've got it. Objection! Let's go. Any Memo-san? Until now, I've had a firm belief. The newspapers are in the business of uncovering and publishing the truth. You're spot on there. The press don't lie, which is why I'm proud to wear the emblem of the Shoyu News on my arm. Lad, you need to stop talking, eh? In a way, that's more Memoism. Sadly, though, it seems the journalists who write for those papers don't always share the same passion for the truth. But what are you suggesting with those recriminatory words, counsel? Many Memo-san, do you recognize this fountain pen? Ah! This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murdered victim was gripping it in her hand as she died. What are you... If you look at the barrel of the pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved there. You can see his name. Yeah, if we go to people, his name is... Yeah, right in Many Memo, that's right, man. So does RM, man. RM. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, Counsel. The initials of the accused remember me. Is it a coincidence, I wonder? That your initials are also RM? No! Right in Many Memo. RM. That's horse dung! Can't you see one of the central tenets of Many Memoism is being a pencil user? And yet, as the court will clearly be able to see on your right hand, there's a very obvious blue ink stain. It would appear that you must have rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favourite fountain pen, that is. Horsey horse dung! Many Memo-san, is it not the case that before she died, you met with Giselle Brett in that beach hut? Why should we listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse. Exactly. Shoyu News will stand behind me all the way. I deny everything. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky. The defense has neither the time nor the inclination to count every star in the sky. Huh. And there's no need anyway, because this pen has more to tell. Yes, there's another clue. A clue that undeniably proves who its owner really is. The logo, right? In that case, Counsel, the defense will now show the court where this alleged clue lies. Of course, Your Excellency. The clue on this fountain pen that clearly reveals its owner's identity is... Oh, wait, to present it right. You don't just click on it, you like click to present. Present. Here we go. As well as the initials, there is also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will of course recognize, Many Memo-san. Goodness me. It's the emblem of the Shoyu News. In other words, the owner of this pen is an employee of the Shoyu News, whose initials are RM. Suddenly, the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Many Memo-san, how do you respond? No! Order, order! Explain yourself, witness! So, this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to have well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets. I've used nothing but honest tactics. Alright then, fine. I won't try to hide it anymore. Yeah, it's not long before that grim tragedy unfolded. I, a Shoyu News reporter, on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the Englishwoman. An interview? You never mentioned this before. When exactly was this? As I said, it was before that evil little student girl showed her face in the hut. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes, that's all. It was just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing. And as we many memoists say, that people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. And he squirted the pen into her wine during it as well, right? However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. You will testify now under oath about the precise nature of this meeting and what transpired. Got it. Yes, alright, but... on one condition. Condition? In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back the earlier witness, Sosuke Natsume-san. Or I gave her the pen and she No, but she was holding a glass of wine when she fell. So I have to assume it went under the wine. no one is mentioning the wine, and I think it's intentionally that they're just like drawing your eye away from the wine. It's too suspicious. So, Sosuke-san? She held the pen up, but she could have just grabbed it off him. I don't know, you know. Oh yes, according to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own. Embrace yourselves. It's not a harmless one. It's big. What? Sosuke, what are you up to, hey? Natsume Bai? Many Memoism states that one man's secret is every other man's front page story. Very well, I will grant the witness's request in this instance. Officer, summon the earlier witness back to the stand. Sosuke-san hiding something? What's he up to? Yeah, maybe. Hey, maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe he's like, I don't know. He just like copies the gesture. I still think the wine is something, but I'll give your theory credence. The witness's secret. I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. When she was stabbed? But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why many Memoism demand I reveal it now. Huh. You mean to say the victim... The victim regained consciousness? Well, and when she did, you decided to ask her a question? That's, true, yes. He did. And that's not all. This woman gave him a very definite answer. An answer that incriminates the accused. We're licking a fountain pen skill. This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing about this now? Why didn't you mention this before, you yokel hack? It wasn't even a conversation. Yes, I did pose the withering English rose a question. I don't deny it. But she can no longer speak. She was barely conscious, even. Counsel for the defense, I expect a thorough cross-examination to be conducted here. This court must and will know the truth. Absolutely, Your Excellency. The reporter is claiming that Miss Brent implicated Ray somehow. What on earth could have happened in that hut? I asked her for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. But he just said he did have an interview with her.
Hold it.
You asked her for an interview, you say? Well, of course I did. I wanted to ask her about the incident she was involved in at the end of last year. About the case in which Dr. John H. Wilson lost his life? That's not the way I phrased it. Many Memoism calls for straight talking. Why did you murder Dr. Wilson is how I put it to her. Yes, that sort of talking is as straight as a ruler. Maybe that's what he counts as the interview. Just like asking the question. Ask every question as if you're asking for a menu in a restaurant, I say. It's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that. How did Miss Brett answer? With one simple phrase. Mystery is a woman's charm. Whew, that told me. I waltzed right out of there. Really? Something about that doesn't seem to fit together. Leave every room as if you're waltzing in a dance hall, I say. It's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that. Then why is the pen there, then? Or why is the pen in the room if he just left? He wouldn't have left the pen down if he just fucked off, right? I think the whole rest of his thing is just like implicating Sosuke, right? So then watching from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witness come running. The detective realized the victim still had a pulse, so he ran to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why many memos and demands are revealed now. Why is the pen there then?
Objection.
Damn, not right. Oh, shit. Ow. Just seems weird for them the pen to be there if there was no fuss. So he saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running.
Hold it.
That's very persistent of you, considering that Miss Brett had just turned you away. Persistence wins the prize. Many memoists are, my personal interpretation, many moist. I'll tell you that. Let them think you've left, and just when they lower their guard, that's when you swoop in for the scope. And the fruits of your labour are all too apparent in this telling photograph. But I'm sure the young yokel student would rather not be reminded of this damning evidence. Actually, it's thanks to that photo that we managed to identify this witness. Many me moists. And as you find me, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I've got nothing to hide. I'm sure. Please do go ahead, witness. The court is eager to hear what you have to say. Try to stop me. There's a story to tell here, and I'm going to tell it. We'll just press him on everything, get as much information out of him as possible. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. So that was Hosonaga then, supposedly, assumedly. And Sosuke-san remained behind in the hut. That's right, yup. Our author friend here was a blabbering wreck, shaking all over from his head to his toes. Mustache twitching, eyes bulging. What do you expect? You don't know the terrifying troubles that have haunted me whilst travelling abroad? Back behind baleful bars. They'll be coming for me, surely. That's all I could think. I felt as though I were gasping for air, drowning in a sea of cold sweat. For Sosuke-san, his experiences in London have scarred him deeply. As the world seemed to close in around me, I quietly recited a prayer to Amida Buddha. Eternal emptiness, empty eternity. The end is coming for me, surely. No sutras are to reside in my courtroom, please. And now we come to the crucial part. That's when it happened. So everyone was in there? Okay. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. What's the question? What question? What exactly did he say? Well now, you should hear that from the horse's mouth, I think. Don't you, Mr. Writer Man? Ah! Out with it, you yokel hack. What did you say to her? What did you say to the dying Englishwoman? Well, in truth, I've been catching crabs at the water's edge and building castles in the sand, you see. Well, the seaside is a place to be at leisure, I suppose. Even for a grown man. But then all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, a young girl's panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air. Ray. I ran off the beach to see what was happening, to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Hosonaga saw Miss Brett on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then just a moment later, I heard a faint moan. A moan from the dead Englishwoman. I nearly jumped out of my skin. But what did you ask her, Sosuke-san? Who did it? I asked her, who did this to you? Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond? She didn't. She said nothing in response. But... When in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or reticence, I demand that you amend your testimony. I will! Sandcastles. I haven't built a sandcastle in ages. She never replied.
Hold it.
So you tried to find out who the culprit was? He who asks a question is a fool for a minute. He who does not remains a fool forever. And having been labelled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Better to be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever. However, you've indicated that the victim failed to respond. Is that correct? I know why. I know why the Englishwoman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stupid mustache. Because I'm Japanese. Oh dear. Soseki-san has really developed a dislike for the English, it seems. Having read the report on his time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at his xenophobia. But the Englishwoman didn't ignore you at all, did she, Mr. Riderman? Oh, well, yes, alright. She did respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant. Sign you up for the voice? Oh. Pointed in the direction of the defendant. Yes, but she could also have been pointing towards the fucking hole at the back of the hut. Right?
Hold it!
Miss Brett pointed a finger at the defendant. Soseki-san, is that really true? It's not easy to stand here and say this, but when we first entered the beach hut, the Englishwoman was sprawled on the floor before us, with the student girl standing on the far side of her. And when I asked who did this to you... Yeah, she's pointing at the fucking hole in the back. The Englishwoman summoned her last ounce of strength to point a trembling figure at the back of the hut. Which was, it can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stands accused today. Is that right? No. Soseki-san, why on earth did you neglect to mention this in your original testimony? But, fiddlesticks, I say. This is not a British court of law. You will respond in Japanese. Yes, of course. The Englishwoman did point her finger towards the back of the hut, but I was trembling. And she was trembling, and everything was a blur. And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing in a slightly different direction. Actually, no, not slightly, in a very different direction to where the student girl was standing. To somewhere at the back of the hut where nobody was standing at all. You mean that your memory of events and the direction in which the victim was pointing are both unclear? Yes, that's it, unclear. I'm very, very unclear. Your Excellency, surely this proves the matter beyond all reasonable doubt. Yes, the woman may barely have been conscious. And yes, perhaps her finger wavered slightly. But there can be no doubt that this was an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because as the court can see, there was no one other than the accused in the direction the victim was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one besides the accused could have possibly committed this crime. Is that right, lads, aye? I'm inclined to agree. In the absence of any credible argument to the contrary, I believe we can now conclude this trial. No. No! The headline's writing itself. Dashing lawyer's hopes dashed. 92 point across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition. This is a serious blow, Sasato. Unless we're able to identify the true culprit and substantiate our claim with evidence, the judge will give his ruling and the trial will be over. But that's impossible, Father. We don't even know how the crime was committed yet. Impossible though the task may seem, we have no choice. We must think back over everything we've learned thus far. Somewhere in all those details, I'm confident we'll find the clue we need. Ray gave us her account of how events unfolded in the defendant's antechamber before the trial resumed. She told us what happened at the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. And then a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet. Before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. Because it was stabbed through the hut. How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back in a beach hut that was empty, but for herself and Ray? Somewhere amid all the information we've gathered so far, there must be an answer to that question. I got it, boys, don't worry, hey? I take it then the defense have nothing further to add. So the gallant yokel student's luck finally runs out. I can't say I'm surprised. In that case, I'm ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter. This is a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding? And how did he or she stab the victim? I know how.
Objection!
Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to postpone your adjudication for the time being. Oh, to what end, counsel? The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying gesture. Who's cute though? Susato or Ray?
Objection!
An alternative theory? Ha! None exists.
Objection!
There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed this crime. What? And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those around her at the time. Susato, okay. By mustering all her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction. This is fiction, fantasy. Very well. As you seem so sure of yourself, counsel, I am prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryotaro Naruhodo. Yes, Your Excellency. You will present your latest theory to the court by means of this plan. At the moment the victim was stabbed, where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed? Here. Outside the hut.
Take that!
Naruhodo-san would never give up, and I'm a Naruhodo now. The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here. Are you mad, counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut? What? Order, order, order. But student lawyer Naruhodo-san Esquire, that makes no sense at all. You just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap. But I didn't see any suspicious individuals loitering about, I can swear to that. Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there's no way that he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut. Actually, Prosecutor Aochi, there is a way. Ah! And, in point of fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting this is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed. You're bluffing. You're bluffing, you yokel. The defense's assertion is clearly too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You will need to give us more guidance, counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut? It's one of these two, right? That's one of the two that has the it's probably this one, right? The one that has the, you can see the gap.
Take that!
The original photographic print of the crime scene? Yes, it's clearly visible in this print. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from outside the beach hut.
Objection!
Do you take us for fools? There's no hint of any such thing. I'm not sure that everyone present would agree. Someone, at least, appears to have noticed what it is that I'm referring to. Counsel, once again I must call on you to be explicit for the court. Where in this photograph is the trace of the stabbing which you claim took place from outside the hut? Right here, bye. The Reed Vajaner.
Take that!
Look closely just here. R/. Don't stick your dick on the tongue. In the screen at the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds. No, I can't. I can't see any such thing. It's true that the hut in question had 4 walls, as you'd expect. However, by parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them. This is extraordinary. Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut. Ha! And of everyone present at the scene, there's only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Right in Many Memo-san, it could only have been you. No!
Objection!
This preposterous idea leaves me almost speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut, does she not? Are we to assume as part of this farcical scenario that the assailant was a knife thrower?
Objection!
No, they said she stood up and fell. No, of course not. We're not? If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. A stool? Have another look at the photograph. There it is. Slit in the read screen. Would align perfectly with the back of a person who was sitting on that stool. My word! So, in fact, the victim was killed while sitting on that stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the read screen. Ha! Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively. But then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut before the defendant, Membo-Me-san's appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. By your silence, Membo-Me-san, I take it that you don't deny the charge. This is absurd. That will do. It would appear that we have a tacit admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of this matter, which means that the defendant, Membo-Me-san, is innocent of the crime. Oh, thank goodness. I finally made him cave. I must say I've never been more proud. No, this can't be. The Aochi clan can't. What of my growth? My growth of hope. It wasn't all an apparition. I can't accept this, I won't. I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by delivering my final verdict and... Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals. But we've established that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut, through the reed screen walls. No one but you was in place at the time to have this hand on the hilt of the blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction. So, your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference, if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else. The poison, right? What are you talking about? Brace yourself, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because of the dirt you dug up. What? Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness. What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course. The poison? Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that a deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? And it's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett. Is that right? That is correct. The unusual constriction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used. I see. So, presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed? Ah! Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her blood. Composing himself again. Ah, how refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely. It matters not a jot who stabbed whom in whose back and with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but by the poison.
Objection!
But that can be explained by the poison being on the blade, as I already...
Objection!
Forgotten already, have we, yokel? During the very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at your side assisted in proving that the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison on it whatsoever. Ugh. So let me get this down. The facts, as skillfully established by the defense in this trial, try to be a headline-making red herring. Is that about right? Well... Ah! Ugh. It's all about the pen. We haven't looked at the inside of the pen yet. No worries, Leo. Have a good night. See you later on. Order, order, order. But where does this leave us? How in that case did the poison enter the victim's body? There's an undeniably obvious answer to that. The lady most likely imbibed it. You mean she drank it? Have another look at the photograph here. As you can see, here we go. She's holding the she had the wine glass. A bottle of carbonated water and a glass had been knocked onto the sandy floor of the beach hut. Ah, carbonated water. Okay. The poison could have been slipped into either. So somebody made Miss Brett drink it. Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. This will make a great front page shot. Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It'd make no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, would it? I mean, that's been established already. Established? What are you talking about? Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who established it was you. Dust my eyes, Me? What on earth does he mean? Oh, let me capture those wide eyes. This is prime press fodder, this is. It would seem that this trial is not destined to end yet, after all. I hereby call upon the witness to give further testimony. That's great, that is. Let me get a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency. You claim it to be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You will explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such a claim. I'm a journo and I'm a man. I've never tried to run or hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now, because that's many memoism. For a brief moment, I thought I'd eliminated the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again. Just where is this trial going to take us? This witness is out of line. Just every Ace Attorney character, really. Witness testimony, complete innocence. Oh yes, I stabbed the English woman, and that's the very fact that proves I'm innocent. Okay. He's just... I stabbed her. Why'd you stab her then, lad? Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I already poisoned her? When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. Pompous English murderer, huh? He has a fucking bone to pick. If the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone else would have to see justice done. Oh, get into a bit of the old vigilanteism, huh? He's a Clark Kent, huh? Well, Clark Kent's not a vigilante. Superman wouldn't say it's vigilante, but the reporter side. So, you admit it then? Did everything happen as I described? But you're the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the reed screen? You can blame this miserable country of ours. Well, you're just admitting to a serious crime. A country that bows to the pressures of foreign powers and lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? So, is that fucking attempted murder? Oh, nice lad, hey. That's why I did it. I did what our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of that charming lady's back, I plunged the blade of sweet justice right in there. He admits it. Fucking ouch, he's like, oh, fuck's sake. Someone who spends his life seeing that the truth is told. I feel really, really awful about giving false information in my testimony before. But as it turns out, there was somebody else who had it in for the victim and got to her before me. I mean, he's admitting to the stabbing, but he's saying he didn't kill her because she was killed by the poison. So he's admitting to one crime to alleviate himself of another, really. That's right, you guessed it. That pretty little student girl. Now there's a woman after my own heart. You're implicating Ray again. She's the one who gave the poison to the English woman and ended her pitiful existence. Why are you stabbing a dead person then? Because he was already poisoned. She was already poisoned. He didn't know she was dead. She took the poison, presumably. She sat back. He stabbed her and she got up and fell forward. Because it says that the poison takes like a few minutes or something like that. He didn't know she was dead when he stabbed her. I don't know if it was Sosuke. They said Sosuke came running later. I don't know. I suddenly snapped. This journal here's off the hook. Maybe he just snapped because she was really racist to him or something. The argument is sound, certainly. If the witness had administered the poison himself, He need only have waited for it to take effect. Subsequently, stabbing the victim in the back would have been entirely nonsensical. And therefore this reporter had nothing to do with the poisoning. Yes, it's all quite logical. That's right, that is. Logical and true. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice at last. This is unbelievable. And after I made so much progress in proving his guilt, is he going to get away with it now? Channel our mans. Think of Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san. They never stopped looking for a way forward until the judge's final gavel. Very well then, counsel. Proceed with what I assume to be your final cross-examination in this trial. Let's go. Yes, Your Excellency. Then you press him on fucking everything, get all the details, huh?
Hold it.
So, you do admit that you had murderous intentions toward Miss Brett then? Ha! The woman's very existence offended my sense of justice. Your sense of... You claiming some sort of righteous indignation? She was pure evil, a cold-blooded killer who committed murder right here on our Empire's soil. But did our good-for-nothing government do anything? Not a chance. So I had to step in. Fly the flag of justice, put things right for the people. Yes, it was my civic duty. That's what drove me to do it. So in summary, murderous intentions then. Whatever you want to call it. The point is this. That Englishwoman was a blight. So I had to do what was right for society. Yet a real wrong was done by the student girl in the dock. A crime for which she must pay. In small view on mobile, his came? Oh, his camera looks like Lederhosen, okay. Obviously because the poisoning was nothing to do with me at all.
Hold it.
Press on everything. So you still maintain that you didn't give the poison to the victim? But it's in your pen though, lad. Your pen's like a syringe or something. Obviously that'd be like putting a belt on your trousers when you're already wearing braces like these. The accused had administered the poison, following which the witness stabbed the victim. Fucking... double act type poison and a stabbing. An unforgivable act certainly, but that one of murder. That crime rests on the accused's shoulders. That is how the law works, you see, yokel. Who knows? You may even learn something here today. 2 consecutive attempts on her life in the space of minutes. Quite a day for the victim. And yeah, you can say that she died. Do something that evil and you got it coming. That's how the law works. The law of reckoning. That's not the kind of law this court upholds. You will reiterate what you were compelled to stab the victim then, witness. Because she sucks. When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. Press.
Hold it.
What exactly were they arguing about? About what happened in the restaurant 9 months ago, that's what. The student girl was laying into the English woman for killing her beloved mentor, Dr. Wilson. Yes, Dr. John H. Wilson. A professor of medicine, invited here from England by Professor Mikotaba, no less. Right. But the English woman just jeered. Her case was to be heard by the British Consular Court in Shanghai. However, there is little doubt that she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland a free woman. It was eating that student girl up inside. You could see it. I really felt for her. Oh. Is Ray back? Yep. I can't stand here and listen to this tripe. Ray. Young girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whenever you feel like it. No, you can't. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. Just keep quiet and listen. But this awful man is making all this up. Chisato, please, you have to make them listen. Return to the dock at once, Memami-san. We are in the middle of a cross-examination. Your Excellency, please, I implore you. That journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness. Exactly, he's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, dirty, great peeping Tom. That's what I said, I called him Peeping Tom earlier. Whoa, take it easy there. Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say. Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accused's remarks. I will grant the request of the defense. Nice. But, Your Excellency. Let's go. This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defendant's obvious concerns. So, whilst recognizing that this contravenes regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak. Oh. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Is this going to be inserted into this one? Or is it going to be her own thing? It was nothing to do with Dr. Wilson. We were discussing the stolen poison.
Hold it.
Stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspected her being the one to steal it. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson. That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison. But surely it will be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed by the government. Indeed. All visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. That's true. I pestered Professor Migutaba until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. But as I left, I was searched from top to tail. Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we've been developing, you see. And since Sosuke-san expressed his interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I give nothing away other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance. I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I've had a singularly terrible experience with a deadly poison. I wanted to look upon my old enemy in the eye. Surely you can understand that. To find out if my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that there would be an incident involving it somehow. It wouldn't just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government even. It would be a complete disaster. And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns? She just curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually. Ah, yes. Minimo-san, one small question if you don't mind. I do mind. Can't you see I'm busy? Clearly you were outside the beach hut listening in whilst the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably then, it was you who wrote this article about what you'd heard. Ah, yeah, the poison article. That's right, yeah. Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in this morning's edition of Shoyu News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else. Sorry. Don't know what you're talking about. Yes. Look at this. The entire article. It's almost what I said to Miss Brett. Word for word. Ah! Well, Minimo-san. As a journo, and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's a founding principle of Many-Memoism. Father's clearly right about this. That reporter did write that article, and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut. The poison article, so an updated article about poison that was stolen from a laboratory at Yume University. The reporter, Many-Memo-san, based it on information he gleaned by eavesdropping. So that's what it was all about. You were trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with that stinking story about me arguing with her. Shut up! My stories never stink. Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say, and I want to go on record. Very well. You may amend your formal testimony. What's he gonna say? The point is, if you poison someone, there'd be no reason to go and stab the person as well.
Hold it.
Can read about this time. Perhaps you doubted the efficacy of the poison and sought to make sure your victim would die. That's horse dung. What? That would be like pouring pepper on your Chinese ramen before you even tasted it. Completely reckless. Although, it might surprise you to learn that I am a bit of an impetuous pepper pourer as it happens. Didn't ask. Once the victim had taken the poison, she would have been only minutes away from death. And yet, this man then proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There must have been a good reason for that. Let's try and like cover it up, right? If it was the reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, then clearly he must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut. Yes, it's undeniable. But between him leaving the hut and the victim being stabbed, there's one very crucial change in the situation. Sorry, what change? The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the Englishwoman. Ah, yes, that's it. That's when Memo-san first found out the exact nature of the poison he'd used. Huh, okay, yeah, so... So if he gave her the poison, then that implies he gave her it without even knowing what it was? Maybe the pan thing is true? Maybe the pan idea is right? That could be the key here. If the victim had unwittingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have had no reason to stab her. On the face of it, that logic sounds entirely reasonable. But there's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder. If we could think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poisoning, I feel sure that everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for. Yes, I agree. In order to do that, I must try to glean more information. We pressed everything though. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? There's a very small amount of liquid still inside the ink reservoir. Can we test that? I don't think we can. Like, test it with the pan. What did I say again? No ink. Yeah, pretty much empty. Well, what was it? Ah, fuck. What was the last thing say? Well, it could be empty or something, right? What's the last line? The blue one. It could be on the verge of running out, I suppose. Okay. If you poison someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well. Is it because the poison takes time? The details of the article. Oh yeah, we know he wrote it. And he wrote it based on... So it's implying that... the conversation he overheard in the hut is what he used to write the article. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. Well, the stuff we have now can. The university would have to be consulted. Would you maybe kill the person so their eyes don't go? So it doesn't give away that they were poisoned, right? So if they accidentally take the poison, then you're like, shit, I need to kill them with something else so it doesn't reveal that the poison was the cause, maybe? Is this man fucking Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park, where he tried to like smuggle out the poison himself? Not in the fucking shaving foam thing, but in the pen. And then something happened and it got taken by mistake. What does R1 say? I'm going to present the poison article because I think the poison article implies that you would want to kill them quicker, so their eyes don't reveal they were poisoned, right? Cross the fingers the music stops playing.
Objection!
Let's go. Well, I can think of one reason. What? Before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for the newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut? Of course he did. There can be no question of that. So she accidentally takes the poison, right? He leaves. And then he overhears it being said that it'll like take a few minutes or something. And he's like, shit, shit, shit. And he fucking goes and gets her. That's what I'm assuming was what happened. Of course he did. There can be no question of that. After all, when we were in the laboratory together, oh, we were told that it was a terrible toxin. Yeah, they had no idea the effects, the time, anything, right? And there's one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Memami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison to Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel? Memo-san has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found an opportunity, this man would have seen it. Ah! Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Memami-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put. I still don't know whether she accidentally took it or he intentionally gave it to her. Like, it still very possibly could have just squirted it and he just was like, ah, fucky, hey, squirts it in her drink. And then he hears about everything else and he's like, oh shit, now I need to go. When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Memo-san overheard some worrying information. Worrying information? What worrying information? Information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed in strict secrecy, and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could have come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. He didn't want anyone to know, they didn't want anyone to know that that's what killed her, right? So he didn't want to do it quicker. Yep. The extreme constriction of the pupils. Yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it'll be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison. There you go, boys. That's what I said. Unless you kill them quicker. Which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people. Ah! Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Memami-san being no exception. Therefore, we conclude that whoever administered the unique poison to the victim was a layperson, unaware of its telltale properties. Huh. In other words, someone like you, writing many memos. Writing many memos? As in, like, writing numerous memos? Ah, I see, Ace Attorney. We got there in the end. It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day. And it was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that was a terrible mistake. Because the poison caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable. As you listened in from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learnt of these facts. But you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. There we go. A plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the reed screen. But what good could that possibly do? Isn't it obvious, counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction. But he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would have ever suspected. This is extraordinary. Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use, which he attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back. Are you fucking caught now, lad? Order, order, order. The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied that it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward? Well, there are a number of... yes. I counter completely.
Objection!
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clinging to lost hope. Lost hope? Uh-oh. Is this Remember Me or is this Ray? Remember Me. Remember Me? Many Memo. Whoa! Ah, you pathetic, useless, fallen samurai! Fallen? Are you calling fallen? My burgeoning growth is... I don't need a counter-argument. What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say. Gave it to the victim, you say. Stabbed her, you say. Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Oh, lad, this fucking pen's coming out now, hey? Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? Without evidence, it means nothing. I've been sitting on this fucking pen since the fucking beginning of the bloody trial. This is my, like, I just fucking, like, pull everything apart. I was like, what the fuck's going on with this pen? Hi, whoop. Put that away for later. Whereas I base my news on facts. Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself. I mean what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all here in my many memos. Every word. Keeps fucking saying it as well. Every slip of the tongue, all noted. That's what the Show You News is famous for. It's the power of the printed word. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. I wonder where the poison went. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. Where's the poison? How's that then? Blown the story wide open? See, I, writing many memo, a mere reporter from the Show You News. Well, you might not have discovered the pen thing at this point. I'm just a big fucking... I just like... smell along every surface I like pulling it apart. We're just letting him like tie his own noose right now. Couldn't possibly have stolen that poison from the professor's laboratory. Ah! It's alright, Sasato. Don't worry. You got it. Watch the time, by the way, Noodle. But there can't be any question of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. If that's the case, you'll have some VOD to watch tomorrow. As you identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here. What's your point, you annoyingly handsome country bumpkin? Good night, Noodle. Have a lovely sleep. I'll see you tomorrow. My point is this. There's one way that you, Many Memo-san, could have stolen the poison that day. I've heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. What the court must be shown is evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison on the day in question? Can we present this part specifically, or are we just presenting the pen as a whole right now? I think we're just presenting the pen as a whole.
Take that!
The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen. Ah! A fountain pen? How can that possibly be relevant? These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now. Bah! I swear by a weasel hair calligraphy brush and nothing else. These newfangled pens are merely a fad. Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, obviously I love my fountain pen. Suck up a... Subcon. Of sumptuous ink and one's work as awash with words in the blink of an eye. I don't know how to pronounce the little squiggly C thing from French. That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later. What is all this talking of sucking up ink have? Sa or S, okay. Ah! And just as it's possible to suck up ink into the reservoir, it's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course. My word! Can this really be? Well, Many Memo-san. When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? by siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pan's reservoir. Ah!
Objection!
As we were saying, yeah, he took it with the pen. More absurdity, that never happened. True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places? No. I'm a little ashamed to say that for fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say. I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Menimemo-san. Oh, fucking breathing heavy. So the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped? Or are you suggesting? The natural conclusion is that in your hasty act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison from it into her glass. Yeah. There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down details of his conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand.
Objection!
No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink? Yeah. But, as you can see for yourself if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. One newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen. No, the pen was dropped after the poison that filled its reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass. Huh. Witness, what do you have to say in your defense? He's fucking caught out. This is how our modern justice system works, is it? So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencil snaps? Oh god, it's Wolverine. I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Ah! Jesus. You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen? That's wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again. It looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter. As I see it, the situation is now very simple. It rests upon whether or not this witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question. Therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove that he did with evidence. Ha! No such evidence could possibly exist, because he doesn't think there's a way to identify the poison, but we have it.
Objection!
Because in the conversation he overheard, there was no possible way to determine it. So he doesn't know that they have developed one. Menimemo-san, this is how our modern justice system works. What? In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we were well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you. Very well then. I call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence. This is it then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle. The defense can prove by means of this item that it was the witness's pen that was used to steal the poison. Gotta be the reagent, right?
Take that!
Counsel, what is that bottle? This bottle contains a unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question. Ha! Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method. Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison. A reagent? What? One drop of the contents of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Menimemo-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt. No, you can't. I won't. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once. Oh god! This isn't my fault! The Empire drew me to do this, trying to hold its height as a civilization by bowing its head to every foreign powers. When I took up arms in the form of the mighty pen, I fought tirelessly on the battlefield, and all the injustice and righteousness commanded men with the power of God just Menimemo! Susato, with me! Let's fucking go! I'm there! Woo! Get fucked! Did I do it right? That was a Sato takedown, wasn't it? Not quite. That was a retro takedown. Let's go. The instant the first drop of the reagent touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. He's beta. When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got hold of me and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into your fountain pen. Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Minimemo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose? Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all. Too juicy for a journal like me to pass up. Then why did the English woman end up dead? I went into that unintended quiz runner situation, that's all. As a reporter. A known killer enjoying full freedom. Evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face. I love seeing the actual shots of the incidents and the characters and stuff. Oh, what's... oh, it's Giselle. Oh, what's this? A foreign Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism. Yeah, she sucks as well. She's very racist. Really, you must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian. What did you call me? This country with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, if you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from. Aye, sparkling water, aye. That's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time. What a terrible tale. In my head, I knew I should just get out of there as quickly as possible. But I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with it. What she'd done. When she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journal spirit. Getting all fired up. Well, he's admitted to it all. To the poisoning and the stabbing. Man's fucking doubled on himself then. I'd like to ask you something. Yes? You often talk about justice. But surely as a journalist you could have just used other methods, other means to deliver the justice you sought. There's no justice in the press. Sorry? After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what had happened in that courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up, that's what it was. That was our first case in the first game. A cover-up? What do you mean? Like, she didn't reveal her motive and then it all just kind of got under the carpet. I would remind you of your position witness. Be careful what you say. Oh, come on. Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign national? Consular jurisdiction should never come into it. And yet that puffed up English woman was going to sail away into the sunset a free woman. The only possible explanation is that behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan. What sort of deal? Yeah, there was all stuff at the end of the first game about like government secrets and all too, like so. I done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up. He came under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free, if they're going to crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself? Let's not forget, Minimemo-san, that you committed murder yourself and you tried to lay the blame on the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. What? The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. I suppose. Oof. He is beaten now. It would appear that we have reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel for the defense. Ryuto Naruhodo. Oh. Yes. Sorry, Your Excellency. Just musing in a manly way here. It's almost unbelievable this is your first experience of the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, it very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits. Oh, Naruhodo-san. Ryunosuke, you mean? The way he handled the trial 9 months ago and the way you handled this one gives me hope that we are genuinely entering a new era of justice in this land. It's very flattering, Your Excellency. Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your contemporaries. Thank you. So, Prosecutor Aochi, do you have any final thoughts? Why's he got a quill? Prosecutor Aochi? Hi. Takatsuchi Aochi of the Aochi clan have been bested by a callow youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today. Gosh, your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it? Silence! Rather than living on in... Oh, fuck, he's gonna commit seppuku. Jesus, I thought it was a quill, not a fucking knife. Rather than living on in shame, I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true path to Aochiism. Aochiism? One hopes that's the only way in which he'll be remodeling himself after the witness. Sprig of my topknot. The time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Takatsuchi. Is that a haiku? No! His honor! Suppose he doesn't really have a top knot to cut off anymore. Everyone's very respectful. I suppose when I go back. Where'd he come from? Now, in regard to the defendant, Remember Me-san. Yes, Your Excellency. I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you not guilty. Let's go! We got him, boys. Court is adjourned. Let's go. First adventure done? Well, after the chatting, of course, but like the actual court case. 13th of August, 2:38 p.m. Supreme Court of the Judicature, Defendant's Antechamber 3, right? Yeah. It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. That's all I can do just to stay standing. No man. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such a great burden to bear. Don't they, Naruhodo-san? Susato, Susato! Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there. Ray, and Father. Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm going to cry. It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end, too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Ray. So I have to say the congratulations belong to you. Susato, don't be so standoffish. Sorry? We're friends, equals. And the trial's over. Say no more of this formal super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger. To throw caution to the wind. Caution to the... What? I'm the great defense lawyer, Ryotaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Or something. Right, I see. I'll, think about it, right. At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horrid man, and it felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anybody else we could throw together? I hope you're not looking at me, Ray. Oh, my goodness. No, of course not. Of course not. He's like her boss. Ah, there it is at last. Ray's lovely smile. You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you. Defense attorney Ryotaro Naruhodo. Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryotaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotaba now. So, I'll never see him again then. What a terrible shame. What? Uh-oh, the boys. What is happening? Ah, Sosuke-san and Inspector Hosonaga. I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Yes. I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me. Susato Mikotaba. Don't. So dashing. So divine. No. Doubly dashing, yes. And devilishly divine. Just look at you. I had no idea, Mrs. Saru-san Esquire-S, that you were locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire's cousin. Astonishingly astounding ace attorney. He said it. Poor Sosuke-san. So confused. I still remember the first time I ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum it was that the unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled in. But after Naruhodo-san's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Sosuke-san was free to return to Japan. What even was that trial? I remember most of the trials from the first game, except what the fuck was Sosuke involved in? Was he on trial for the one where the knife fell from the window and stabbed Roma? I didn't think he was even on trial for that. What the fuck was his case? He was in prison for murder, but what was the murder that he was in prison for? Was it that one? Okay. Maybe I'm just forgetting. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. Oh yeah, because after that was Gina, right? Gina was on trial. That's right. I'm stunned. That's a truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea, and I'm a chief inspector at the police bureau. Who came up with Mr. Turtle? Who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less? I'm not sure you should be admitted to that, Inspector. Amazing. You're one of many faces I see. Just two, really. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Well, I'm not a passion you though, Inspector. Well, I'm a professional, of course. By a smile. I do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes. I really do. There he is in his original disguise. 9 months ago when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover, disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. And then on the steaming ship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. Kazuma's death. Well, it didn't help you, did it, Kazuma-sama? Pain. From my perspective, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now the truth has been lost forever. Oh. What do you mean? I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed at the end of last year. Ah, yes, it was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it. Ah, my eye, you know. Dr. John H. Wilson, yes, the man I invited to Japan personally. The mystery is, why did she kill him? And now that the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter. With Mr. Herlock Sholmes, the great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Sholmes well, of course. Ah, my arch nemesis. How lightly you utter his name. Well, according to the stories published about him in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes. A best friend. And that man was an exceptional doctor of medicine by the name of John H. Wilson. Yeah, we knew this, yeah. It's Iris's dad. What? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe that it's a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend and partner of Mr. Sholmes. And if that's really true... Iris. And the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again. As you know, I travelled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born. Yes, grandmother told me about it. On returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at the Imperial Yumi University. But I also serve another role as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs. Yes, I was aware of that as well. In that case, I'm sure you understand that there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you. Could you just tell me one thing? Why did you send me back to Japan? Yeah, it said he said he was like sick, right? That's why we got summoned back at the end of the first game. It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you collapsed with high fever, and you were growing weaker by the day. What? Where did that news come from? That's what I'd like to know. Because after the long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain that you perceived might inconvenience me in some way? Or harm me? That's really the only explanation I can think of. Dear me. Do you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Susato? I'm sorry, my dear. I simply can't... Ah, let me go! Oh, it's him. Wrong voice. Ha! 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 Many memo-san. So, one throw wasn't enough for you. I got one last thing to say before they take me away. Professor. Me? I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean? No, not her. The student of law he left for Great Britain 8 months ago. What? Student of law? He must mean Kazuma? What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with Kazuma-sama? Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never... The fucking judge? Well, I didn't expect to find him in here. What were you officers playing at? Very sorry, Your Excellency. So there was something involved in Kazuma's death? I was coming to tell you that the rickshaw has arrived, Eugen, and it's a good job I came by. Yes, thank you for dealing with him. And I'll be there shortly. Oh, Your Excellency? Ah! The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore. Merely your father's friend, Seishiro Jigoku. And may I say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken on a more dashing appearance. Susato. He knew. Did you know all along from the start of the trial? A judge sees everything, Susato. I couldn't let you take the risk. If Seishiro here hadn't known, and then he'd recognize you. So I had a word in his ear beforehand, as an old friend. So Seishiro, shall we? Yes. Having ruled on that case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address. Before you go, Father... Sorry, my dear. We shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably. Oh, thank you very much. What do you think of my Seishiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that. Very good, very good. Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett, about Dr. Wilson, and now it seems, according to the reporter, about Kazuma-sama. I'm going to have to bring this up with Father sometime, when nobody else is around. Judicial Assistant Mikotabe-san Esquires, could I have a word? Oh yes, of course, Suzuki-san. What is it? I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you. I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England. This I have to hear. Please, Sosuke-san, tell me at once. I will! As you know, my time in England was terrible, cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled in. Thank goodness locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on a ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I know, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Migotaba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report. My father? He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day that he sent the telegram to you asking to return to Japan. What was then the particular part my father was interested in? I don't really know exactly. But do you remember them? Those two terrible cases I was caught up in? Of course, I can never forget. Your father seemed to concern himself mainly with the second case. The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care. I don't have to listen to what that dastardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that case somehow holds the key to all these curious unanswered questions. This is just like the Magnus McGilded case coming back. Hey Charlie, alright? That horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings. The haunted lodgings? There were like noises in the walls or something, wasn't there? That case somehow caused my father to send me back to Japan urgently. I thought that whole business was over. But it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told. Interesting. Curious things afoot. Oh. Back to Kazuma's grave.
So, the mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness. And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san.
Her voice is cute.
But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Soseki-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in. Father has said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery. My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left.
Back to England we go.
You might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
And that was a fun one. Yes, we shall save. The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Oh, I see him. Well, that'll be for next time. Because it's time for the stream to end. Thank you all for watching. Finish off the first adventure of the Great Ace Attorney 2. We will continue next week. Next week's going to be a bit weird because I'm missing 2 streams next week, but we'll talk about that towards the end of the week. Tomorrow we're starting our second new game of the week. Trover Saves the Universe. That's going to be a trip. So feel free to come by and check it out. We'll be playing that tomorrow and Thursday. And then on Friday we'll be back with The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, I'm missing, because my movie night, my book club was delayed from this week. It's now Monday next week. And then I also was going to be missing Thursday of next week anyway, so 2 missing next week, so yeah. 2? But we'll talk about it later in the week. But yeah, those are the two. So Monday and Thursday next week there'll be no streams. So we'll jig about some games and stuff. We'll see. We'll just see what we're playing. So. But yes, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow with Trover Saves the Universe, and we'll have Ace Journey next week regardless. So don't worry, we'll have at least one stream. So thank you for watching. Have a good night. See you later. Goodbye. Bye.